Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends, enemies, and comrades, this is Kenya Revolutionary. Today, I'm burning the midnight oil, or for those who are in Kenya, it's morning right now. So, good morning for my Kenyan audience. And if you're in Asia somewhere, it's probably evening or whatever the case is. It's 12 hours ahead. So, yeah, it's probably like 12 midday or 12, yeah, something like that. I don't know. But karibu sana for everybody who's watching. Karibu, 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 karibu. It's late night wherever I am, but we shall burn the midnight oil for another session because we have so much to talk about, so much things to cover. There's so much happening in Kenya. So tune in, like the video, like the video, like the video, like the video, share, subscribe, and make your views known. Karibu sana, karibu sana, karibu sana, karibu. I know it's too ni mapema, you're still at work. You guys are working, uko kwa ofisi, uko facto, whatever the case is. If you can, if you accidentally, bumped to this channel, my name is Kenya Revolutionary. You can find me on YouTube. The name is right there, Kenya Revolutionary. And subscribe to the channel. The first order of business. Subscribe, share, like, comment. Like the video. Let's get to business, okay? Tuingie kwa biashara. Let's get to business. All right. So the topic, as you can see, we're going to talk about Raila, Ruto, Gachagua, the finance bill, and foreign powers. How the foreign powers actually play into this. There's so much news in foreign news. One specifically that I wanted to talk about is the escalation that's happening between NATO and US. Sorry, NATO and Russia. NATO forces versus Russia. Apparently, Joe Biden told NATO members that they can use American armaments, American arms, to strike Russia inside Russia territories. And they've also mentioned that they'll probably put boots in the ground to lead the force towards Russia, okay? Which is kind of telling Russia, we're about to attack you. So, and remember, Putin said if NATO attack Russia inside the Russian territory, he does not mind going nuclear. So yeah, so we might be looking at nuclear warfare if you're not careful. And I know for the Kenyan audience, you might be wondering, how does that affect us? Why should we care about that? Well, we just were given a few weeks ago, we were mentioned, we signed, I think we were adopted as a non-NATO ally, south of Sahara, the first country that is. So basically we are NATO allies. So if Russia was to, retaliate using nuclear weapons, we might fall a victim to that too, because if you noticed, there's Russian top diplomats and military men just arrived in Burkina Faso and Mali, where they basically announced that they will defend Burkina Faso and Mali in case of any military attack on those two Sahel nations, okay? So basically, and if you study geopolitics, you understand that World War III, just like World War II and I, spilled over to Africa. And this time, I think World War III will happen in Africa. It's the fight, it's the battle of resources, okay? And Russia is also making strategic movements. That's why they are investing heavily in arms, in machinery, and all that stuff in West Africa, especially the Sahel nations, okay? So this might play a part. So in case Russia feels like, they're being attacked or something, they might strike at, use these Sahel nations, Mali, Burkina Faso, as a launching pad to strike Kenya, because at least the distance between Burkina Faso to Kenya is not far compared to, sending a missile, intercontinental missile from, somewhere in Moscow to Nairobi, okay? Which they have the ability to do that, but, I mean, I think Russia had a base in Sudan or something like that. But anyway, we shall touch on that and see how that also affects, how the possible consequences that Kenya might face due to that. Okay. Anyway, let's get to the nitty-gritty of what I want to talk about. I want us to review and look at the finance bill, because that's what actually I want to focus on before I get to the Russia and NATO and how that can affect Kenya. Then we shall touch on another angle of looking at Raila's announcement or Raila's, official concession to the Ruto Kenya Kwanza government. Finally, admitting that, he cannot win the AU seat without Ruto. What does that mean as far as 2032? Yes, I know a lot of people are talking about, 2027. I know a lot of people are talking about, Raila will be out of the scene, he'll be away, so Ruto can rule, whatever. But no, maybe there's a reason why Raila aligned himself with this Ruto government. Because for me, that whole press conference was just basically saying, in not so many words, it was a subliminal declaration to his followers and his enemies alike, basically telling them that, hey, listen, I'm now aligned to President Ruto. We are working together. That's basically what it means. So what does that mean for 2027? Because I have a strong feeling that 2027 Raila still might be in the ballot box. And maybe this move, this whole AU seat, is just a smokescreen for what is to come in 2027. We shall delve into that too. But let's start by discussing the finance bill, okay? Tune up. Don't waste any time. Like the video, share, subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. If this is your first time, go ahead, and you're wondering who I am. My name is on the screen. Find me on YouTube, subscribe. If you already are subscribed, the first order of business, you know the deal. Like the video, share, comment, and all that good stuff. Let's get to the finance bill discussion. Let's go. Give me a few minutes, 2 seconds, okay? I'm giving you 2 seconds to just, yibambe, situate yourself. But here it is. We shall start with this news thing. All right, let's go. Okay.
Ama kwa hakika Olive, umesikia kilio cha wananchi.
Nimesikia.
Wamezungumza mengi kutoka ndani ya moyo wao. Mwingine akisema kwamba akishtumu sana wabunge, akiwaambia shame on you, manake anasema nyinyi ndio macho masikio ya wananchi, lakini mnaonekana kwamba wakati wa kupiga ile kura kidogo mnaonekana kuwasaliti wananchi. Lakini kwa Rioba ndani ya studio, neno la mwisho kabisa. Shutuma zimekuwa nyingi, malalamishi yamekuwa mingi. Tutajitoa vipi? Najua wewe si mtaalam, lakini pia una mawazo.
Tunajitoa vipi? Lakini kabla ya kufikia jinsi ya kujitoa, nina mambo mawili matatu ambapo nimefuatilia sana mazungumzo haya kwa kina.
Kwa haraka kwa muda.
Ndugu yangu Mtunga amesema shilingi ya Kenya imeimarika. Lakini shilingi ya Kenya imeimarika, yani tunavyoongea sasa hivi, hata raia wa kawaida, mwananchi wa kawaida anashindwa kununua hata chapati ya shilingi 20 peke yake mtaani. Na sijui shilingi ya Kenya imeimarika kwa namna gani ambavyo sasa hivi mwananchi wa kawaida anashindwa kuelewa. Hiyo ni moja. Pili, nakuja kwa ndugu yangu Morris. Ndugu yangu Morris amesema kuna jinsi wanakusanya ushuru. Sasa mimi kuna kitu ambacho kinanishinda na sisi wananchi. Wakati Moi ametoka kwenye mamlaka, Kenya Treasury ilikuwa inakusanya bilioni 200. Lakini Kibaki alivyoingia mara ya kwanza alisema mimi nimeanza na bilioni 700. Wao mbona watamki zao? Kwa nini wasizitamke ndo tujue wamekusanya, je, wamefikia malengo au hawajafikia malengo? Kwa sababu nikiangalia huku nje maduka yanafungwa. Wao wameongea na rais. Rais amemwambia mimi nataka mkusanye kiasi fulani cha fedha. Sasa hawakufikia hiyo target, huwa ni mambo gani wamemrudishia rais? Na biashara za watu zinafungwa. Sasa hivi inaongezwa kodi nyingine juu. Zile ambazo zimefungwa na zile zimebakia, wanaweza wakatengeneza? Jibu ni hapana. Mimi nakuja kwa ndugu yangu Mbadi. Mbadi amesema rais anahitaji watu walio na hekima na busara ili waweze kumadvise. Which is true. Yaani hiyo naliunga mkono kabisa. Lakini swali langu najiuliza ni hivi. Kwa nini mbunge anatumia milioni 200, milioni 150 aingie bungeni na mshahara wake hauzidi milioni 60? Ina maana hawa ndio wanaotukosea. Kwa sababu gani? Kila miradi inayokuja ya serikali anataka takrima kutoka kwa huyo mtu atakayekuwa anatengeneza huo mradi. Arudishe pesa yake. Kesho na kesho kutwa mtu huyu mkandarasi amepewa barabara kutengeneza, anashindwa kuitengeneza, anaiachia nusu, pesa ya serikali imekwenda kwa sababu ya kitu kinaitwa takrima. Kwanza hiyo Mbadi akubaliane nayo 100%. Tunazijua hizo. Kwa hiyo wabunge ni wanaoturudisha nyuma. Sasa hapa mwisho namalizia nikisema hivi. Njia ya kuwezesha haya mambo ni hivi. Mbadi leo arudi bungeni na Wamshomba wapitisha sheria kwamba ukiiba mali ya umma wewe uende ndani, mali yako yote ichukuliwe. Tutakuwa tumetii. Lakini kama hiyo hakuna, sikudanganyi, wanaogopana kwa sababu wanajua wakitunga sheria hii itawakuta na wale wengine. Sasa wanaogopa kutunga sheria kama hii. Sasa ili tuweze mambo kama haya, Mbadi rudi bungeni, Wamshomba rudi bungeni, pitisheni sheria. Sisi hawa ambao tuko ndani ya bunge hii.
Hold up, wait a minute. Who is this guy? I like him. I like how he thinks. I like how he argues. Let's continue.
Tukiiba mali ya umma, tufilisiwe kila kitu tulicho nacho, tunyang'anywe mali yote, na ndugu yetu rafiki yetu mzuri awe ni jera. Uone mambo yatabadilika. Kama hiyo hakuna, tunawafundisha watoto ambao wako darasa la 2 saizi, walioko darasa la 8, walioko sekondari kuwa wezi wazuri mwakani. Mugabe alisemaje? Kenya kutakuja kuwa na chuo kikuu cha wezi.
Haya, na wewe Peter, nilikuwa ukisikiza kwa makini, mengi yamesemwa, maoni yako ni gani?
Mimi ningependa kusema
most people have no clue that in 2023 the best way to make money on Amazon is not with physical products.
KRA wanasema kulipa ushuru ni kujitegemea, lakini sasa imefika mahali tunaona hatuoni kama kuna kujitegemea hapa. Hii ni kulipa ushuru ni kujidanganya. Sasa kitu ningesema ningependa biashara mingi tunaona zinafungwa, na sijui kama rais wetu mpendwa anajua hiyo ama wale watu wana advice ndio wana misguide. Sasa ningependa wanapokusanya ushuru wajaribu kuangalia hao watu tunakusanya ushuru kwao, do they really have the serene environment zao za kufanya biashara iko nzuri, iko kamili kweli, ndio waweze kuwa na moyo nzuri ya kulipa hiyo ushuru. Sina mengine.
Haya, ni hayo tu. Peter konayo Lulu. Naona jumbe pia zimekuwa nyingi.
Basically he's asking, is the government providing a conducive environment where businessmen can actually conduct business in a way where they won't feel some type of way about paying taxes, okay? That's the basic question he was asking.
Nyingi Olive, kila mmoja anakasirika kuhusiana na hali ilivyo ndani ya studio, lakini mbali na hayo tunaenda kwake Ayub na Nimrod kutoka kwa Oversight Studio tupate kujua mengi zaidi.
Lulu Hassan, moja kwa moja basi kwa kauli za mwisho, Mheshimiwa Seneta Okiya Mtata, kauli zimetolewa nyingi, lakini mwisho wa siku ni kwamba mswada huu hatimaye lazima utafika katika bunge uweze kusomwa, upigiwe kura. Matarajio yako ni yapi? Haswa hapa uliposema kwamba kwa bahati mbaya masuala ya utungaji wa bajeti na kadhalika yafiki katika bunge la Seneti. Mtazamo wako ni upi kwa wabunge ambao wako pamoja nawe na ambao wako wanatutazama ama wako katika kutazamiwa na nchi kutekeleza wajibu wao?
Kwangu mimi la kwanza ni kwamba huu mswada wote uko kinyume cha katiba, kwa sababu huwezi kuleta mswada kuchangisha pesa ku implement budget na huna budget yenyewe. Huu mswada wa finance bill wakati wake haujafika. kile ningeomba ikifanyika, ningeomba wabunge wasisitize ni kwamba zile budget estimates zichapishwe kwenye mitandao tuweze kuziona both ya revenue na ile ya ile ya mapato na ile ya matumizi ya serikali zichapishwe kwenye mtandao tuweze kuziona. Mambo ya kuchapisha tu zile za zile estimates za matumizi ya pesa ya serikali, pesa za umma, inaficha mambo mengi, na pia inaruhusu serikali kuchangisha pesa kwa njia ambayo hauwezi kuwajibika. Wanachangisha pesa ni kama lengo lao ni kuchangisha pesa, sio kutoa huduma. Lazima tuonyeshe wangependa kutoa huduma gani ndio uweze kuwa na msimamo watachangisha pesa kulipa. Tukubali kwa zile huduma wangependa kutupa, alafu uende utafute pesa kufadhili hizo, kutekeleza hiyo huduma. Lakini kwa vile mambo yako sasa sio hivyo. Na pia ningeomba kwamba wakati huu wazingatie katiba. Na hiyo bajeti lazima ikuje Seneti. Hii mambo ya kuficha hii bajeti kwenye National Assembly ambapo watu wamekataa kufanya kazi, hatakubali. Kwenye Seneti tuko maseneta 47 wenye kura. Na tunajuana. Na tukikaa chini kwa jambo, tunaelewana na tunachambua maneno vizuri sana. Kwa National Assembly wako karibu watu 400. Hata wengine hawajui wenzao. So hapo ndio shida wewe inatokea, na ndio maana unaona serikali inaogopa bunge la Seneti kwa sababu mko watu 47 na kila mtu anajulikana msimamo wake. Ndio imeende kujificha kule kwa National Assembly kwa kuna watu wengi. So mimi naomba huu mswada ukishapita National Assembly uletwe kwenye bunge la Seneti kulingana na kipengele cha 429 mlango wa 3. 449 mlango wa 3. Kwa sababu unasema kinaga ubaga kwamba bajeti ya mashirika na bajeti ya commission inatakana idhinishwe na bunge, na kwa hakikisho kwamba hizo commission ziko na pesa ya kutosha. Na hiyo bajeti ndio hii bajeti tunaangalia sasa katika Senate ikiwacho nje. Parliament ni Senate na National Assembly. Parliament sio Senate peke yake. Na hapo tungependa tufuate katiba, mlete huu mswada Senate tuutandike.
Okay, and the general understanding from your presentation is you have no confidence in Honorable Mushomba and John Badi because you seem to have lost hope in the National Assembly.
Before I go on, I just wanted to clarify what he was saying in Swahili. It's a little bit difficult because Swahili is kind of, yeah. But anyway, Omtata is making a good point, and I've been making this point along with Jimmy Wanjigi, who has been saying the same thing, that you cannot have a finance bill if the budget itself has not been passed in a legal way. Because in order to have a budget, which is an appropriation bill, you have to discuss, agree on, have a public participation on the revenue estimates and the expenditure expenditure, okay? So basically, you should tell us what your targets are, how much you can possibly collect, and what you're going to spend it on. It should be showing in the appropriation bill. So if the revenue estimate says that you can possibly collect 3 trillion, this 3 trillion should show in this appropriation bill where it will go. So maybe 1 billion of this 3 trillion can go to healthcare, 10 billion can go to maybe something else, whether it's whatever pay, but every shilling from that revenue estimates should show where it's going to be spent on. So Okiya Omtata is making the point that in order to have a budget, the process must be followed, where the revenue estimates is shown, put in the public, in the internet, mtandao. Then we debate where these revenue estimates, when we collect it, where will it go? What will it be spent on? So once we have a budget, this appropriation bill becomes a budget. That's when we can actually come up with a revenue collecting measure, which is the finance bill. Okay, That's the procedure as far as the sequence is concerned. You don't just talk about the finance bill without actually following the law as to how the budget or the appropriation bill is to be formed. Okay, so that's the point he was making. But let's continue. This is a good conversation.
No, the way it is being run, because the National Assembly is going to debate the report. I said that earlier, that the problem we have with our design is a design problem.
Okay.
Whereby I've created a budget office that looks at whatever, or it looks at the budget estimates, makes a commentary, which is called a report, and the commentary also again only contains the expenditure side, it does not contain the revenue side. Since 2010, when we got the new constitution, then it is that commentary that is then brought to Parliament for debate within, as my friends have said, a period of 2 to 3 days. And I've told you here that the budget documents, the 5 books that I've referred to on the internet, have more than 4,500 pages. How do you expect these MPs to go through this budget in 3 days? Because when the estimates are presented to Parliament, they are taken to the budget office, they are not given to each MP. Then they only bring the report.
Okay.
So yes, what do we need to do? And then also another thing, my sister said that's very important. The budget is an act of Parliament. And you heard her say that to make a law in Parliament requires even sometimes 3 years.
Yeah.
So as an act of Parliament, it must be a bill introduced in Parliament, approved by Parliament, and assented to by the President.
Thank you. I'll give you the final word, Honorable Mushoma. But Honorable John Badi, you have been mentioned by, as you had in the taxpayer studio where the stakeholders are. What's your response to that? The feeling that you are not special when it comes to you MPs with regards to your political party belongings, that you are part of the failure, and you can't delink yourself from the problems that is seen as perpetuated by Parliament?
First of all, I would like to say that yes, collectively as an institution, Parliament or National Assembly has failed Kenyans in terms of oversighting and ensuring that the budget process is aligned to people's needs and the objectives which would help propel the country towards economic growth. But I also listened to a comment from one of the contributors who asked that the Public Accounts Committee is supposed to tell Kenyans how much money is lost. And much as I agree with that, but I want to also put a rider to that the way our audit process is structured today, and as the chair of the Public Accounts Committee have now interacted with the auditor's report, if we don't move away from the financial audits, then we will not be unearthing or trying to bring out corruption issues. I am racing against time to ensure that by the
That's a good point by Badi when he says that the financial audits should happen. You can have all the budget you have, but if the Auditor General, the budgets, what's the name? The person who watches the budget, whatever. Okay, basically looking at all the budgets, that's whether it's the county ones, national one, that make sure that the money that these counties and the National Assembly have been allocated, okay, they should actually see if that money that they were given went to the project that they say that they were supposed to be spending that money on. So if you cannot audit that, you cannot tell where this money is going, because we can't be raising money, having this finance bill year in, year out, raising taxes, people are paying taxes, but we don't see the result of paying taxes. Nothing is being done. So that's a very good point by Badi that, audits are very important, whether it's from the Auditor General or the budget person, what's his name? The budget, whatever, Comptroller of Budget. Is that the name of it? Comptroller of Budget, who actually goes through these budgets and make sure that the money that's collected is spent where the budget actually said it would be spent on. Okay, so let's continue. That's a good point. Shit. Sorry guys, I've messed up a little bit. I'm sorry. Poleni sana, I messed up a bit. Crap. All right, but I will continue.
end of this calendar year, we are up to date with the financial audit so that we move the Office of the Auditor General away from compliance. The financial audit is largely on compliance. Look, Ayub, these accounting officers are interacting with accounts for the whole year. And then you are bringing an auditor to be in that department for less than 3 weeks. They will simply be looking at, payroll audit, they will be looking at impress, they will be looking at so many things. So we need to move away from that and emphasize now on value for money, do the forensic audit, and do special audits. I recently, through my committee, asked the Auditor General to do special audit on 3 areas: fertilizers subsidy, use of Article 223, and the stadia. If you look at the reports that have come from the Auditor's Office, damning, serious indictment. But these other financial audits are too general.
Okay.
Matters that you cannot really pin accounting officers down with. So we are moving towards that direction.
Thank you.
And on the issue of MPs winning their seats through corruption, I agree. But let me also...
Before he gets there, which is going to be interesting, before he gets there, the other problem that I wish they could have mentioned this to Mbadi and also the panelists there, especially Mbadi, is that yes, this audit are done. I was watching this senator, I forgot his name, where they were grilling not only Sakaja but the Barasa, the Kakamega, I think is it Kakamega or Busia, one of the Western. Yule jamaa alishikwa na mganga. I forgot that the governor's name. Where he spent 11 million on food. 11 million. I kid you not. 11 million on food in 1 year, I think. One fiscal year, okay? Now, the problem is, even if these audits are done, and we see Sakaja could not answer most of the questions when he was being grilled over his, the Auditor General's report. He couldn't explain how money was being spent. But there's no criminal charges even brought against these people when they misappropriate these funds. So that's another issue that should have been asked to Wamuchomba and Mbadi, and also Okiamtata. What's the point of having these audits and we find that money has been misappropriated, but no legal action? That's a criminal offense. Article 226(5) basically says that if an public official misappropriates fund, they are liable to pay it off and they should be auctioned if need be. Okay, these people should be taken to jail, but nothing is done. Like we saw when case here, whether it's Mike Sonko or the fertilizer guy, what's his name? I forgot his name. Whatever that fertilizer guy, Liteka Linturi, and Aror and Kimwarer, they were taken to court. Ikifika hapo unasikia ati DCI or whatever the case, they say the evidence is not enough to prosecute them. So what's the point? Okay, that's something that also needs to be addressed. People need to go to jail and pay fines and do hard time. And the penalty for stealing public funds should be very serious penalties. Okay, so yeah, let's listen to Mbadi as he continues.
As Kenyans, and they are watching me. When you voted for Kenya Kwanza, lying to you about bottom up, did you understand what they meant by bottom up, by hustler? I will tell you, even Kenya Kwanza politicians didn't understand what hustler was. You would see CEOs saying, I'm hustling. You would find those who are looking for jobs saying we are hustlers. So who was an hustler? And then to the bottom up, Alice Wahome appeared before Kenyans on the TV and could not define bottom up. She's now the cabinet secretary implementing bottom up. How do you expect her to implement something that she didn't understand? And Kenyans voted for them. A good number of Kenyans voted for Kenya Kwanza, even though these people did not even understand what they were talking about.
Thank you.
Okay. That's a good point. But Mbadi, let me just answer that for you. I know no one was there to actually scold you over that. He's right when he highlights the ridiculousness or stupidity behind this whole idea where we have Alice Wahome who could not define what bottom-up economic model is, same as the deputy president who was asked. I think they were in one show with Okiya Mtata, and the deputy president could not define what was bottom-up economic theory, or whatever the case is, model. Now, people, from my recollection and from what I heard from the ground, people did not vote for Kenya Kwanza because, not necessarily because of this bottom-up idea, okay? People voted for Kenya Kwanza because I feel like it was a referendum on Raila and Uhuru Kenyatta's rule, perceived rule. Let me just say that, okay? It was a referendum. It was a referendum on Uhuru Kenyatta, okay? Just remember, 2017, Raila won the elections, okay? Then he got into a coalition, sorry, not a coalition government. He got into a handshake na aliwacha watu kwa mataa. And he got into a handshake with the very person who was ruling with the heavy hand, if you can remember. Okay? So Kenya Kwanza was the lesser evil between the two. Ruto fashioned himself as that guy who is not part of the whatever, what do you call it? Not monarchy, but was the dynasty, okay? It is because everyone was fed up with Uhuru Kenyatta's rule. That's number one. Everyone was fed up with Uhuru Kenyatta's rule. Uhuru was abusive and didn't care about the law. And he was very, very brutal. Number two, Raila Odinga, having the majority behind him, he betrayed majority of his followers to get into a handshake with Uhuru Kenyatta, which led to majority of their supporters of Uhuru Kenyatta and supporters of, already Uhuru Kenyatta was unpopular, but Raila joining Uhuru in that handshake led to an exodus of voters leaving, associating Raila Odinga with Uhuru's despotic rule. So Kenya Kwanza, with William Samoei Ruto, especially after the whole perceived tensions between him and his boss, they looked at Kenya Kwanza as a lesser evil. And that's why they voted overwhelmingly for Ruto, even without understanding what bottom-up economic model was. Okay, that's why they won. So that's the reason why Raila Odinga lost. That is something that Mbadi probably failed to understand. But let's go continue.
Then you come and blame those who are elected today. You are the ones who elected these people.
Asante.
You elect criminals, and then you come and complain why those criminals are carrying out criminal activities.
Asante sana. Tunashukuru Mheshimiwa Mushomba yuko hapa na wakati.
No, they are not complaining that why the criminals are committing crime. They are complaining because you, as members of parliament, you, as members of the opposition, who are supposed to do something about this criminality that's going on, your mom, if anything, you've joined hands with the very criminals you're talking about. So yes, the Wananchi are complaining, but what other avenues do they have? Because if they feel the government of the day is not working, let's say the administrative part of the government, the ruling party, let me just be specific because the opposition are also government, whether you're in any of your government, but I'm just being specific here. If the people feel like the government of the day Kenya Kwanza government is not meeting their needs. The first person they will be looking at is their representatives. They'll be asking, why are you not doing anything? Just like the finance bill of 2022, 2023. The first question they were asking is, where's the Azimio folks? When it was time for voting for the bill, they never showed up. Okay? So that's the first place where we're looking at. So Mbadi cannot come up and say, Ati, you voted for this guy, then you're complaining about them stealing. No, we were expecting you as being member of parliament to do what? Oversight, check the executive. But you're here on national TV wagging your finger at us for complaining about what is going wrong, while we chose you as our representative, voted for you to check the executive, but you're on TV pointing your fingers at us. You see how we have our ass backwards? I'll continue.
Kati alikuwa anazungumza sauti tofauti, saizi ni sauti tofauti. Tupe maoni yako ya mwisho.
Kabisa. Kwanza kabisa nataka kusema hii proposal ya finance bill ambayo tunaangazia leo, Mheshimiwa Senator amesema it is completely unconstitutional, it is irregular, it is unprocedural, and it is punitive and retrogressive. Hiyo ni maoni yangu, kuongezea vile amesema ya kwamba imekeuka sheria ya Kenya ya constitution. Pia hii finance bill imekataa kutii national policy ya tax. Hii policy ukiisoma, yale ambayo imetangazwa hapa inafaa ifuatwe. Kama tunatengeneza hii sheria ya pesa, ya kuokota pesa ya wananchi, imekataa kuingiana. Kwa hivyo hata tukipitisha hii kwa kifua, najua mtata ataenda kotini kuchallenge, kwa sababu hii imekataa kuingiana na hii. Sitaki kuongeza sana yale ambayo imekataana, lakini najua akipata nafasi, sababu yeye ndiye huwa anaenda kotini, yes, atafanya hivyo. Lakini mimi kama mama nashangaa, ni kwa nini kila finance bill ikiletwa sisi wa mama tuafinywa sana? Budget imefanywa, tumepoteza 40% ya pesa ya wamama, ile inaitwa Women Enterprise Fund. Pesa nyingi sana imeenda. Pia last year tuliwekewa ushuru kwa nywele zetu, kwa kucha zetu, kwa midomo yetu na zinginezo, perfume zetu tukawekewa ushuru, ilikuwa juu sana. Mwaka huu wamelenga watoto wetu. Mimi nimelea watoto na mtoto wangu wa mwisho ako na miaka 20 kwenda juu, na sikumbuki kufunga napi mimi. Na ninaona tukikukubalia hii bili pite hii, wamama wote ambao wanajifungua watayarisha kurudi kwa napi, kwa sababu hatuwezi afford kununua diapers tena. Sababu ile pendekezo liko hapa la pesa ya ushuru inayoongezwa kwa diaper, itabidi sasa tuwe tunafunga matoto diaper kama tunaenda kanisa ama kwa msikiti. Lakini akiwa kwa nyumba, akiwa kwa matatu, tunafunga vitambaa ama turudi kwa napi. Napi pia, kwa sababu hatutengenezi hapa Kenya, pia tuna import. Sijui kama tuta afford, kwa sababu iko na hiyo export promotion levy, iko na railway development levy ambayo imewekwa kwa diaper, iko na eco tax ambayo kila kilo ya diaper itatoshwa 150. Wamama wananielewa vizuri nikisema tutarudi kwa napi, kwa sababu diaper ya mtoto kama haijaloa maji inakuwa light, lakini ikiloa maji inaangusha kilo. Kwa hivyo tukisema every diaper ikiangusha kilo moja tulipe 150, na kila saa ninabadilisha mtoto diaper inaangusha hiyo kilo, it means every hour nikitoa mtoto hiyo diaper, inafaa nilipe 150. Ni diapers ngapi tunafunga watoto kila siku? Haiwezekani. This is a punitive proposal. Punitive even to the farmers. Kwa sababu hii bill inasema hivi, ni kama tumekosea serikali. Excise duty if you read the origin of excise duty, it is actually nicknamed sin tax. Yani tax ambayo inatoshwa kwa wale ambao wamekosea ama hawafai wafanye vile wanafanya. Kwa hivyo ukiongeza excise duty kwa transactions za mobile phone ama kwa banki nikitoa pesa kutoka hapa na kupeleka pale, ni makosa gani nimefanya?
Asante.
Kwa hivyo hiyo excise duty ambayo imewekwa kwa hata vitu kama diapers ama vitu kama makaratasi ya value addition, sielewi ni sin gani, sin gani tumetenda ndio tuwekelewe hiyo duty. Kwa hivyo that is a misplaced tax, na hii proposal ni ya kuadhibu, how do you say in Kiswahili, kuadhibu wa Kenya. Hii ni ya kupunish wa Kenya na lazima iangushwe. Na wale ambao wamesema wajumbe walinunuliwa, wasiseme generali ya kwamba wajumbe walinunuliwa, kwa sababu sisi wengine hata kama tumechaguliwa na chama ya Kenya Kwanza tulisimama kidete na bado tunasimama kwa sababu tuaielewa the impact and repercussions ya kupitisha huu mswada. Leo nimejaribu Kiswahili jamani, si unipatie congratulations.
Thank you, Honorable Mushamba. She is the lawmaker representing Githunguri constituency from the county of Kiambu, the chairperson of the constitutional implementation.
That was she made a very good point about that. I can't say anymore. She explained how punitive those taxes are, so I kind of concur with what she said. Let's continue.
Oversight Committee. Honorable John Badi is the nominated member of parliament, as well as the chair of the Public Accounts Committee, and Senator Okia Omtata, who represents the county of Busia. Your time is appreciated, lady and gentlemen. And we now move on to our next studio. That is to Yvonne Okwara and Lincoln Njogu, who are standing by at the experts studio.
Very much. Ayub, we just want to get closing comments. I'll start with you, Dr. Rugo. What's the one thing we should be looking to? I know we've talked a lot about the finance bill, but there's also interesting things that are happening in the allocations.
Yeah, so first of all, let's remember that budgets are not about statistics. Budgets are about people. So when we talk about education, we are talking about children of Kenyans. When we are talking about business, we are talking about Kenyans. And therefore, these are people's lives. And therefore, looking forward, we'll be very keen to see, first of all, the reversals in ensuring that social sectors are still big. So for me, we have to balance that out. And finally, we should stop theorizing this whole idea around the business environment. Ukweli ni kwamba biashara zimeanza kuwa ngumu, maisha yameanza kuwa magumu. Just think about the number of parents who cannot pay school fees. Teachers are crying and parents cannot pay. Look at the number of businesses that are being auctioned. Look at the even released ile gazeti ya magari ambayo yanauzwa, nyumba ambazo zinauzwa zinakuwa auction. Sio kwa sababu hawa Kenya hawataki kulipa hiyo mikopo. It's because life has become difficult. And therefore we must make sure that we actually deal with knowing these are human beings who are affected. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Diana?
Thank you very much. And mine will be two things. First is the legality of some of the taxes that are being proposed. Last year, we were treated to a circus where tax proposals are amended and new legislative proposals are brought entirely during the second reading. Please, MPs, the Finance and Planning Committee, do not take away our mandate to decide. Any proposals brought, they should be considered next year. Let everything go through the proper process. If it is not income tax legally, it is not. Go back to the drawing board. To Kenyans or to members of parliament, especially the three who were available this afternoon, I want to send you to Article 211 because of our debt situation. We come from civil society, we've gone to court trying to get our debt contracts. We read that particular clause. Any committee of parliament, Honorable Badi, the oversight one, the audit committee, Honorable Amushomba, constitutional implementation through Article 203, give us our true debt status so that we know what we are paying for. Kenyans, power does not corrupt absolutely. It is fear. it is our own fear. Let us go to those MPs until the very last minute so that they safeguard our constitution, because if there are people who have failed this country, it is Parliament which has the power of the purse and consistently has ceded that power to the executive.
Thank you. Gordon Philip.
Absolutely. I just made that point. I didn't even know she was going to say this. I literally say that when Mbadi was trying to blame wananchi for complaining about this UDA Kenya Kwanza government. And I said, Mbadi, you're a member of parliament. You can't point your finger at the wananchi for complaining for lack of, services. You're part of that legislative body, which is also given the mandate, the duty, the power to check the executive. And this lady rightfully and articulately mentioned the same thing I just said. Don't sit there and say nyinyi mna complain ati Kenya Kwanza inafanya hivi. Then what's your job? We voted for you to do the same, to do just that, to check the president, tell him, hey, listen, you cannot pass this. The people on the ground wamesema, no, we cannot. Tufanye audit, tuone how much we really owe, then we can take it from there. Let's go ahead and listen. Very good conversation. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, please don't hesitate. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, go to my channel. My name is Kenya Revolutionary. Go subscribe, and if you have subscribed already, like the video, share, comment, and all that good stuff. But most importantly, if you haven't subscribed, go to my YouTube channel, Kenya Revolutionary. Subscribe and put your notification on. Let's continue.
Na hasa masuala ambayo yanafaa kupewa kipaumbele zaidi wakati wa utayarishaji wa bajeti.
Thank you, Lincoln. First, I have to appreciate the discussions we've held this evening, and it has been really insightful. And many Kenyans have learned one or two things. The complaints have come through, and we appreciate that. But from the Institute's perspective, the ISPAC, that is from the look of things, last year we had a complaint about double taxation, where we were complaining about pay as you earn and the housing levy still on gross income. And now you move to the social health insurance, 2.75%. From the manufacturing perspective, now we've moved to triple taxation, where you have the excise duty, and then you have VAT, and then now you have the eco levy on all that. I think our submission would be that let's try to make tax simple and motivating for Kenyans to pay. Further is to stop this over-reliance on a small portion of Kenyans who pay taxes. Lastly, we haven't really exhausted our discussions on.
Very quickly before I let him finish, basically what he's saying when he says let's stop over-reliance on this small portion of Kenyans who actually pay the mostly the taxpayers who pay most of the taxes, the middle class. He didn't elucidate on that or expound on what he meant, but I think what he's referring to is expanding the tax base, okay? Like I say, expanding the tax base is you do that by, again, creating jobs, You create jobs where you can bring more people into the workforce. And if you have more people working, the more people you can tax, okay? Instead of actually raising, if you're not creating jobs, you have the same amount of people. So every time you raise taxes, they are the very people who are wanafinywa na wanazidi kufinywa nafinywa. But if you maintain the same rates, but bring more people into the workforce, then there you have more people that you can tax. You don't have to necessarily raise taxes. I think that's what he meant without expounding.
The expenditure and revenue collection, but what we see is an area which we need to really improve on as Kenyans. we have to really follow up on issues of corruption and seal revenue leakages as even we collect, because there's so much leakage which still comes through the Kenya Revenue Authority and other authorities. But more importantly is let's make public participation have some meaning, so that we don't simply appear before these committees, say what we have to say, go home, and they don't seem to take any measures towards what the wananchi have provided. And very final is that there is no economy that can grow because of overtaxation. There must be some flexibility in collection of tax.
Yeah, so I think the reason why I was shaking my head is because it was wrong, obviously. Every country in this world is a ceiling. You must. There's a law. That's why Parliament is there. You must have a law that limits how much the government can borrow.
Yeah.
The government doesn't have powers to borrow. It is vested in Parliament. So that's why I was...
It's so funny. If you've realized anything since I started this snippet, this whole thing, playing this whole videos, it seems like the common denominator is Parliament. You cannot go around it. It all comes down to the Parliament. Everything that has been discussed, whether it's oversight, it's everything to auditism of it, where is Parliament? That is all we are coming down to it. Okay? If the Parliament is not checking the executive, then you're going to have a executive who does, or she does, if it's a Ruto, basically doing whatever he wants, because no one is checking him. That's basically what's... So anyway, I just wanted to mention that all along with this conversation, through all the speakers that have spoke, whether it's Okiya Mtata, Mbadi, whatever, with the exception of Mbadi was trying to blame the wananchi. You see that it all comes down to the legislative body, okay, that are failing us. But let's continue.
But I think all this uproar on the finance bill, in my view, is a reflection of deep leadership and governance problem. This is what underpins the bad economic policies. And bad economic policies are the things that have put us into poverty, unemployment, collapsed businesses, and all those things that you've heard people talking about. And so if a leadership is out of touch with reality, and they listen less to their voters, but more to their lenders, this is the kind of situation we end up in. And so one of the key things that government is supposed to do is to create a conducive business environment. It's the businesses, it's the people who create jobs. It's the people.
Yeah, I just to stop him real quick. Bad policies don't necessarily drive us to the ditch, economic ditch, so to speak. Policy should be guided by law. You draft your policy, whether it's an economic policy or whatever policy you have, whether in your manifesto, if you want to, design your policy, it should be something that it's within the law. Okay? You cannot have a policy that violates or contravenes the Constitution. To me, as I see it, the biggest problem in Kenya is the lack of respect for the rule of law. Yes, I'll give you an example very quickly before I go back to this gentleman. We had that housing levy. The housing levy was an illegality. It was illegal the way they wanted to implement that policy. Okay? Okiya Mtata and others went to the courts and challenged it. Then these guys went to Ninio Parliament, wakaifinya hivi, wakafanya hivi, and then they passed it illegally. Okay? So you see, hiyo kitu inatufinya, but the whole thing was passed illegally, just like the previous finance bill, the previous budget for the past 10 years. So the problem is not necessarily policy. It is people not wanting to follow the Constitution, the rule of law. And if you don't follow the law, this is what you're going to get. There's no order. Everyone becomes a criminal. That's why we have people who we are complaining of where this money, why can't we see these roads? Why can't we see better infrastructure? Where we borrow billions and trillions of money from IMF, World Bank, and whoever else, China and all else. Hatuwezi kuona maendeleo. Why? They're breaking the law by borrowing illegally, and no one is checking them. No one is auditing, and if you audit and you find that they have done it illegally, there's no consequences. There's no accountability. Hakuna mtu anashikwa. What happened to SGR money? How did we get that Eurobond that we borrowed, that was used? Who went to jail for that? The COVID Ninio, Kemskits. I don't know what, I mean, golden back. We can go over. There's no accountability. So if there's no accountability, people will continue breaking the law, violating the constitution, and they'll get away with it until that day that we decide, you know what, this 2010 constitution actually means something. Let's implement it. If you're found, as Article 2226 says, 2226(5), you know, if you steal money, you are liable to pay it back. But until then we shall sit here and complain, oh, this is a member of parliament, because they go to wanapelekwa kotini, alafu nasikia ati there's no enough evidence, no accountability, and we know very well these people are criminals.
People create goods and services. It's the people who create self-sufficiency. It's not government. Government is supposed to provide that environment. And so I think I want to urge Parliament to reject some of these irrational taxes which are there, are very irrational, I mean, which doesn't make sense, especially the ones which undermine manufacturing and some of the government policies that want to enhance manufacturing and other sectors. So I want to urge them, please don't give us the middle finger again, like they did last year. This would really be very bad, because Kenyans are now businesses are spending a lot of their time trying to argue on this thing instead of doing some useful work. I think the government has the right to collect taxes, but I think there's a limit, and it's up to the people to decide how much they can be taxed. That's the fundamental rule on tax. It's for the people to decide that we want to have some of our money in our pockets, or disposable income, or do what we want to do. But government, and that responsibility is expressed through Parliament.
Yes.
So Parliament should not let us down.
Indeed. Thank you very much. Bill Okero, political economist. CPA Philip Kakai, excuse me, who's the chair of ISPAC, Diana Gishengo, national coordinator of the Institute for Social Accountability, Dr. Abraham Rugo, who's the country director for IBP, that's International Budget Partnerships Kenya. Thank you. Over to you, Rashid and Trevor.
Do you want to see how much money you're eligible for if you were in a car crash within the last 2 years?
All right. Thank you, Yvonne and Lincoln. Let's hear from our panelists here. Just quick closing remarks, and Anthony, I'll start with you on this. Where do we go from here, and what should be the priority areas? Just 30 seconds, please.
I want to end on a positive note.
Okay.
That CAM and members, we sat together and analyzed sector by sector by sector and came up with opportunities, both locally, regionally, and internationally.
Okay.
We have a great potential in this country. We can grow jobs. And actually, in our mapping, we've seen we can grow these jobs from 352,000 to 1 million jobs in core manufacturing, not even the related industry. We can drive the taxes we're talking about from manufacturing, from 360 billion to 1 trillion.
Okay.
So we didn't be speaking about this. We just want a conducive environment to produce.
Asante sana, shukran sana. Upitishia mwenzangu kauli yako ya mwisho.
Thank you. As I end, once again, Article 1 of the Constitution has been put to a test, just like last year in the finance bill. And so this article states that sovereign power belongs to the people of Kenya, can be exercised directly through ourselves, and it's through the public participation that we are seeing right now, but also through our representatives. And so Kenyans have come out in numbers through their representatives to share their views. And it's only their hope that the outcome of this process, the output, which is the Finance Act, will reflect their views. So on behalf of the Kenyans, this is to the members of parliament. It's time to redeem yourselves.
Okay.
through the debates that you'll be holding.
All right, Peter.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Peter.
Yes, we thank the media for organizing this public participation. That is quite enlightening and good. But then again, we'd want to talk about put money into our pockets and then give us the incentives. And as you do that, you stop the wastage. And then we have a lot of money. And then let's have transparency, especially on the huge money that is on transport. And then we call out Kimani Kuria, the committee chair for the finance and planning, for calling us or saying that we might not necessarily use our vehicles to get to work if we don't want to pay tax. We call out him for that. Thank you.
Erin.
Mine, I think, is to the government.
I'm glad he mentioned that Molo MP Kimani Kuria. Not only did he say that if you don't want to pay your tax, you should leave your car at home or not buy a car, but also he said that, we might not even consider the public's opinion input on this finance bill. That guy needs to, anyway, let me be civil today. Let's continue.
Government because we have said we are a religious leadership. So I would just want to quote from the Bible that says, and to him much is given, much is expected. Okay. So we have given the government a lot in terms of our resourcing. And so we also have very high expectations. And my prayer and hope is that the government will treat public funds with the respect it deserves, because this is the sweat of Kenyans. And any money that is misappropriated is death and poverty in households. So just to have our leadership look at accountability in that lens. Thank you. Very much.
To our honorable members of parliament, KRN National Treasury, Wanjiku's money, while transferring, has nothing to do with the value added. So we shouldn't go there, and we should be the first country in the world to be able to tax VAT and excess duty. And then lastly, let's not touch on our dollar. As banks, we have struggled together with Central Bank quite a lot for the last 1 year to stabilize the dollar. So don't go to the dollar with VAT.
All right, Alice.
First of all, I want to thank us.
Again, I'm a huge advocate of having your own currency that is backed by gold. That's a conversation that we can have next time, but very quickly, we shouldn't have our currency pinged on the US dollar. The US dollar is paper. It's not backed by anything. It's not backed by gold. So we cannot ping our money on them. We should ping our money by backing it with gold, the gold standard. But that's a conversation for another day because it gets more complicated than that. But let's just go ahead.
Royal Media Services for being the real mirror of the community, because courtesy of this session, we are able to speak to Kenyans. And finally, I just want to call upon government to respect the Kenyan consumers and hear the cry of the Kenyan consumers and reject this finance bill in totality.
Okay, Christine?
I think for me, my parting shot is a tax policy development requires a partnership and collaboration between the government and the taxpayers. We must work together because it's by so doing, we'll be able to identify the multiplier effect of some of the policies we make. We are able to identify areas of expanding the tax base, and we're able to also identify issues of double taxation. Once we do so, when we have that, when we have this partnership, I think we should be in a position to drive our economy sustainably from a tax perspective. Thank you.
Very fast, mine is to say the political class, let's stop using our experts, our government officers in a bad way. When things are good, they show up as politicians. When they are bad, they send people under the bus. And I'll give an example of P.S. Hinga. He sweated the whole time only for the money to end up in money markets, and we are still here. Nikimalizia, dereva wa basi anaomba, ambiwa fungu.
That was a very good point. Very, very good point. I know this guy is like kind of a comedian or whatever the case is, but he made a good point about the Hinga. He was sweating, explaining all that stuff, telling us the good things about how many I don't know, 200 units that they're going to build. Where is that money? They've made it a loan now. Loan themselves that money. Where are they going to use it on? And they're going to come back and ask us for more money to pay the interest rates on the money that was supposed to be the housing levy money that they made it a loan. Very good point, sir. Very good point.
Fungue macho. Aombe kama amefungua macho, sababu anapatiwa direction kama amefunga macho. Aombe lakini afungue macho.
Karanja.
Lastly but not least, I would like to say that we do not run the government through, or we don't grow an economy through taxation. And what we do, we run the government through taxation, but we grow the economy through production. We must be able to produce, we must be able to have a conducive environment to trade. Micro, small, medium enterprises account for 98% of all the businesses in Kenya. We contribute to 50% of the GDP growth. We must be taken care of. The moment the government neglects us, the economy will always be on its knees.
Na bila shaka anasema kauli nzito.
Very good point. You can't. The backbone of any economy in the world is production. Whether you are Saudi Arabia, you're producing oil. If you're US, Russia, they produce gases, oil, and all that stuff. US does the same thing, coal, gas, oil, whatever the case is, corn, name it. We Kenyans, we are an agroeconomy. Let's increase production. Why are we that yatuna chakula? What's that? And let's stop this nonsense about privatizing our parastatals. No. Our sugar industry and every other industries that are owned by government, we should maintain those. Now, to be fair, I'm not saying that we should necessarily nationalize everything. Like those gentlemen have said, we should produce a conducive environment where we encourage production. So if you're a small farmer or somewhere, let's say you live in Chemelil and you want to start your own sugar factory, okay? The government should be able to provide incentives, maybe like a form of loan for you to open your sugar factory where you can process your sugar and sell it. That is an example of how the government plays a part in supporting the private sector, the small farmer, to produce their nenio. And it's an incentive for them to, scale up their production as far as sugar, okay? And for the parastatals that the government own, let's maintain it. I know a lot of people say that, oh my God, the parastatals usually are not competitive. It's not functioning. We've been throwing money there. It's not working. Well, you should audit it and see why it's not working. Is it the workers? Is it the people who are running it? Is it corruption? If that's the case, then let's revitalize it by revolutionizing the business, restructuring, weed out the people who are not efficient, who are not qualified, who don't know what to do, who are corrupt. Then make it efficient. Buy the modern machines, increase production, okay? So we can have enough for consumption and enough to trade with other countries. Very good point by that guy. Every backbone of any economy of any nation is production. Good job.
Kwamba siku ambao daima serikali inapokuwa haiwasikilizi wananchi wake, basi uchumi utayumba, hususan washikadau wale wapo studioni. Kwa kweli ni swala la muhimu ambalo tumeweza kulijadili. Kuwashukuru tu nyote kwa muda wenu kwa hapa. Manake wamefanya kazi nzuri.
Yeah, special thanks to all our 9 members strong Kenya Association of Manufacturers CEO Anthony Mwangi, Irene Otieno, National Coordinator, National Taxpayers Association, Raymond Molonje, Acting CEO, Kenya Bankers Association, Alice Kemunto, Director at the Consumer Grassroots Association, Peter Murima, Chair at the Motorists Association of Kenya, Annette Nerima, Program Manager, Kenya Human Rights Commission, and Timothy Njuguna, Content Creator, also Samuel Karanja, MSME CEO, Micro and Small Enterprises CEO, and Alpha Tax and Business Advisory Service, Christine.
Are you a STEM professional and are looking to apply for U.S. permanent residency?
Thank you, guys. That was just a snippet of what was discussed in that discussion. Now, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends and comrades, please take a minute to go to my YouTube channel. It's Kenya Revolutionary. Go to my YouTube channel, just type it there. Go there and subscribe. It's free. Subscribing is free. You're not going to be charged. Subscribe, put your notification on, so every time I come in, we can have these discussions. I can always get you in. If you want to come in the studio and have your 2 cents, I'll bring you to the studio. But anyway, the point was made. These gentlemen made good points, and I would like to, that was just like a 30 minutes version of what was going on. There's some parts that were kind of, edited out. I will play them. Let's go to the Twitter sphere and play the parts that, the snippets that were left out in that 30-minute program there. Okay, so let's go there. I want to play that so we can. I think there were a bunch of people who are making very, very good points regarding that these issues. Let me go here and play this one. Hold on. Let me start with Anthony Mwangi, afisa mkuu wa KAM. Let me just start with that. Okay, like the video, ladies and gentlemen, like the video, and please go and subscribe in my channel, Kenya Revolutionary. Let me start with him because I think he made a very good point earlier that I never got to play. Let's play it right here. So here you are. Twende kazi, twende kazi, twende kazi.
It would be good to look at from macro level. It's important that people understand that their life revolves around manufacturing. And I like the analogy that my friend from KB has used. But even before we go there, it would be good to look at from macro level. What does manufacturing do to the country? And again, remind the Kenyans that outside the public sector, that is the government and the counties and the parliament and judiciary, which employs 900,000 people plus, the next big employer is core manufacturing at 362,000 people. But even though it comes out as manufacturing contributes 7.6% to the GDP, manufacturing again, and I'm saying core manufacturing contributes 18% to taxation, 360 billion. But let me just break it down a bit using the analogy that here is used about Wanjiko. Everyone who is watching this show today, your life revolves around manufactured goods. When you wake up in the morning, the first thing that you interact with is a manufactured good. Toothpaste, soap, clothing. Then you leave your bedroom, you go to your kitchen or to your living room, bread or ugali, African bread, peanuts, butter, tea, sugar, shoes, the shoe polish. You leave your house, assemble car, you go to work again. Our lives revolve around manufacturing. And therefore, even without looking at the contribution to taxation, our life depends on it. Okay. So how do we make Kenya produce more? We're already paying a lot of taxes, but how do we make sure that we are producing more and Wanjiko is not suffering because the life revolves around?
Bila shaka tutakuja tuweze kuyafanua kwa kina zaidi.
Again, I've been stressing this in all different platforms when I'm talking about economy. It's not rocket science. It's pretty straightforward. You have to. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, you have to produce. You have to manufacture. Now, when he was talking about co-manufacturing, he basically means like two or more companies like kind of merging together in the sense of one company does the actual production. For example, whether it's they're making it's a cotton, whatever, then the second company which merges with them they kind of have a contract where they are more, they kind of worry about the product development. They want to the sugar that you produce. They want to see that the sugar that you produce, that company A is producing, is something that it's of high quality, and they try to market it and how they can look at ways of which they can, scale up. So that's what he means when he say co-manufacturing. That's essentially what he means. But he makes a very good point. Like I say in my previous point, the problem in Kenya is that the parastatals that we own are neglected. Basically, nobody is paying attention. There's no accountability, which seems to be the theme here. And all of this points back to the parliament. Bunge is letting us down. So those are the words. I want to play Okiya Omtatah. I think Okiya Omtatah had something else to say about this. Let me find Okiya Omtatah. He had a very good point, made a scathing remark regarding Ruto and how, the whole borrowing thing goes. Let me find Okiya Omtatah. If you can just give me a second, give me 2 seconds, ladies and gentlemen. Please take this time to do what? Go ahead and subscribe. Let me play Mbadi. Let me start with Mbadi first before I go to Okiya Omtatah. Let me go to Mbadi. Please go ahead and subscribe. Subscribe to my channel. My channel is Kenya Revolutionary. Like the video. If you haven't subscribed, just like the video. Sorry. If you have subscribed, like the video, and if you haven't, subscribe and put your notification on, so every time I come in, you can always see me here and you can join in the discussion, okay? Like I see good here in the comment section there. Go ahead in my YouTube channel. Anyway, let me play Mbadi. Mbadi was saying something also. Mbadi was also making some points. There's some points that he was making that I agree with. Some I kind of do not agree with, but let's see what Mbadi had to say.
Remember the last general election, Kenya Kwanza did not get majority in the National Assembly.
Stealing.
You see, it is bad manners in our politics. The issue, what brings us to where we are, is this talk of tyranny of numbers. Remember the last general election, Kenya Kwanza did not get majority in the National Assembly. Which house is the one that is mandated at the moment to deal with budget estimates, projections, the debt level approvals, etc. But because of our bad manners in politics, majority was forced to move from Azimio to Kenya Kwanza. And so today, much as I would put out good ideas, much as I would persuade and talk to Kenyans, and including my fellow members of parliament, that we are about to make a big mistake, how many members of parliament from Kenya Kwanza side would listen? Probably you'll have Gathoni wa Mushomba and a few others. Now look, you are taxing us more, but where is that money going? The budget is being reduced by about 85 billion. But where is this reduction? I will mention to you where the reductions are. 1, education, 45 billion. 2, health, 7 billion. 3, agriculture, rural and urban development, 9 billion. 4, environment, water and natural resources line, 9 billion. If you add those 4 budget lines, you have 77 out of 85.
And
The key,
women enterprise fund.
yeah, the key and most critical areas which affect the law in the society are the ones that are reduced. And you will find members voting.
Hold on,
yes.
buddy. Okay, because of the timing aspect here, you talked about the majority aspect in the current parliament.
Exactly.
The Jubilee Party, when it came to power, had a near absolute majority, still had the majority and had railroaded some of these proposals through parliament. When the PFM Act gives MPs, notwithstanding your political party belongings, the party that sponsors you to parliament, why is the lacking conscience? Aren't you part of the problem, especially in simply rejecting what the executive says? For example, the upscaling of the debt ceiling in the last parliament where you were, and there was a formal agreement between the then President Uhuru Kenyatta and the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga.
By the way, let me put it clear. Debt ceiling to me is nothing.
Hold on.
What is important is how we budget.
I just missed what he was.
You know,
the PFM Act gives MPs, notwithstanding your political, when it came to power, had a near absolute majority, still had the majority and had railroaded some of these proposals through Parliament. When the PFM Act gives MPs, notwithstanding your political party belongings, the party that sponsors you to Parliament, why is the lacking conscience? Aren't you part of the problem, especially in simply rejecting what the executive says? For example, the upscaling of the debt ceiling in the last Parliament where you were, and there was a formal agreement between the then President Uhuru Kenyatta and the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga.
By the way, let me put it clear. Debt ceiling to me is nothing. What is important is how we budget. You know, you can have a debt ceiling of even 30 trillion. But if you budget properly, you will never go to that 30 trillion. But I want to also put it this way. Remember, the tyranny of numbers started in 2013. That's the first time we had this language of tyranny of numbers. Much as you would also condemn and castigate the last parliament, but I will tell you the first parliament in the history of Kenya to reject a budget and return it to the treasury was the last parliament, the 12th parliament. And so, much as we would say that it also committed some crimes, but I would tell you that parliament was a bit more objective compared to these other parliaments. There was robust debate. There are things we rejected. Remember the finance bill of 2021. There were a lot of changes. There were bad things which were put in that bill, which we removed as a parliament. For the first time, the finance committee was responsive to Kenyans' cries and concerns. Today, we don't have that. And I will tell you collectively as a house, we stand condemned. But go back to records and you'll find some of us have been speaking a lot of sense, which if were listened to, then we would not be where we are today.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Badi. Mtazamaji.
Okay. One thing I wanted to say about what he's saying, I mean, he's trying to, defend the previous parliament because not Azimio. Was it Azimio? It was not Azimio by then. What was it? ODM or whatever the case is. Whatever coalition, on Raila's side, the opposition, they were the majority. So he's highlighting the achievements, saying that they rejected some things that, Uhuru's government was trying to propose. But I think the journalist there, I forgot his name, Ayub or something, he actually had a very good question. And it basically, the underlining question, the thesis behind the question was, the premise of the question was, it suggested that, you guys go to parliament, you're members of parliament, but you don't vote your conscience, okay? The party that basically sponsors you, if you are ODM, you're probably going to take orders from above. So whether something is bad, unlawful, or whatever the case is, as long as it's coming from the other side of the political aisle, you're going to reject it. So if the president proposes something which might be beneficial to the people, you will reject it. And also if he, does have proposes something that is not good, you'll reject it. So, and I suggested this in my video. One of my videos, I said this, if you can have people like Wamuchomba, actually, this is a good conversation because it can rally politicians, those who have a conscience, if there's any still in the parliament, to actually work together, because we are in a situation where majority of Kenyans understand that we are in dire situation economically. So why not come up, have a collaborative approach to this, to these bills when you are going through this finance bill, okay, having this public participation. It shouldn't be a matter of we Azimio and Kenya Kwanza. We should look at it like, okay, so how can we actually do something that's beneficial for the wananchi? Because we are all feeling the pain and we understand what this punitive, unconstitutional proposed bill can do to our constituency. Okay, so why can we not work together? I mean, that's the method that will be my approach if I was Azimio or Kenya Kwanza and I'm trying to persuade somebody on the other side of the political aisle, instead of this, what I feel is quite childish, which I saw Mbadi was kind of doing in a way, which is, we did this. The people from Kenya Kwanza are the ones who we should be looking at. They are criminals. No. This is not a place. This is not a time to start pointing fingers, because if you start pointing fingers, there's much blame to go around. So we should look for solutions. And if you're looking for solutions, you have to reach out on the other side. Okay? And, it's an approach. I say this, and I saw a few months ago, Babu Wino and Wamuchomba and a couple of others who kind of came up with their own organization. I don't know how effective or how strong that collaboration is, but that's the approach that these members of parliament should have if they want to check the executive. Okay, it shouldn't be a partisan argument here. So yeah, let me play Okiya Mtata. Okiya Mtata also had something to say which was really, really, really kind of interesting, that I must let's listen to Okiya Wamatata. Okay, like the video, ladies and gentlemen, and don't forget to go to my YouTube channel and subscribe, share, like, and comment. Okay. All right, Okiya Mtata, please. Okiya Mtata, taking it over. Thank you so much.
And within the constitution also there are measures to. I will take off where my sister just left off. We have a constitution in this country, so we cannot be said that we are being ignored. We have a constitution in this country, and within the constitution also there are measures to punish these people. There's going to come a time when we shall put them in jail for what they're doing today. Across the world, President Ruto was in South Korea the other day. I think he's still there. Mm-hmm. Let him ask himself how many presidents have been former presidents of South Korea have gone to jail. As he wants to admire South Korea, he must not decide whereby rogue presidents are jailed and punished.
President Park was the last.
Yes, and so does President Ruto want to be jailed when he leaves office? That's the question he should ask himself. He's not almighty. He must obey the constitution. There's no way out. Mm-hmm. And me, in discussing this bill, I would like everybody to go to the website of the National Treasury at www.treasury.go.ke/budget -books-1 /. You will find 5 books there which contain the budget estimates of the current government that we are supposed to be discussing, but instead we are being taken the wrong way to discuss the Finance Act or the Finance Bill, which is premature. You cannot have a finance bill without a budget you want to finance. You must have the budget, then now come up with measures to finance that budget. But we are dealing with measures to finance what doesn't exist. But once we look at the budget estimates, the total number is about 4,500 pages. Right now, I've read through all of them.
Ooh. Good point. I think we kind of touched on it, where I said, Article 226 of the 2010 Kenyan Constitution, 226(5) says that, if an officer misappropriates money, whether it's a present public officer or a previous one, so even if Jomo Kenyatta was alive and he misappropriated some money, he can be jailed and he can be, responsible for paying it back. Okay, I mentioned that, and basically he highlights that. I think we went through that before. There was another point I was trying to make, which he made. I forgot. But anyway, this All this thing points to one thing. Remember, I always stress this ad nauseum, that our problems is not only a Kenyan problem. Some of these problems are actually rooted from the outside, foreign powers that kind of cause this atmosphere where people just borrow a lot of money and they spend it and nothing happens to them. That is a fact, okay? If you listen to Jimmy Wanjigi's interview, he kind of touched on it. I want to read you something. Are you guys ready? I want to read you something. That is very, very, very interesting. I saw it. I just saw it on the news yesterday. I don't know if you guys had the opportunity to do that. Please take a moment to go to my channel, Kenya Revolutionary. Go and subscribe to the channel, Kenya Revolutionary. Like the video. If you already have subscribed, go like it. Like it. And if you haven't subscribed, go and subscribe. It will help you in life. You can always join me here on the comment section too. Let's read. There's something I want to show you that we can read to show you the foreign influence on our troubles in Kenya, as far as economically and as far as the taxation is also concerned. Okay. Okay. Can you see it, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends, enemies, comrades? I hope you can see the screen. Can you see the screen, ladies and gentlemen, brothers, sisters, friends, enemies, and comrades? Okay. It's called, I even forgot what it says, but whatever. Okay, let me read it. I'll show you what it says. I'll enlarge it. I think this was the Business Daily or something like that. What is this? All right. It says, Treasury to take over more than 40 parastatals in changes. Okay. So I'll read it really quick. More than 40 state-owned commercial entities, including Kenya Power and KenGen, will be transferred to the Treasury if an International Monetary Fund, IMF-backed bill is adopted, giving the finance minister outsized powers in tapping independent directors and reviewing the performance of the firms. Treasury Cabinet Secretary CS Njuguna Ndung'u has published the government-owned Enterprise Bill 2024, which seeks to cut the reliance of state enterprises on taxpayers through improved governance structures. The shift will deny CS's control of the cash-rich parastatals that have been used as centers of patronage and rewards for political cronies. Current CSs hire directors in the state-owned enterprises that fall under their ministries. Another shift is that directors will elect their chair from among themselves, a departure from the trend where the president appoints chairpersons of the firms. The Cabinet Secretary for the National Treasury shall exercise ownership functions over the government-owned enterprises by approving the establishment of government-owned enterprises, holding shares of government-owned enterprises in trust on behalf of the national government, the bill reads. So, what I want to impress upon you is this. If you missed the whole thing, I'll just say it real quick. More than 40 state-owned commercial entities, including Kenya Power and KenGen, will be transferred to the Treasury if an International Monetary Fund, IMF-backed bill is adopted. So basically, the IMF is backing this bill. I'm telling you, why should a bank tells a country what to do with its industry, enterprises, government-owned enterprises? Because we owe them. That's part of the deal. If you take their money and they're willing to give you whatever much you want, because the bill is designed, this is all about controlling our industries, okay? Goodyear is saying, all I can say is Ruto is a traitor, a man who is selling Kenya and Africa to the Western countries and now Asia. Yeah. Yeah. This is sad. This is sad. This is really sad. And you can see what's happening. There's so much I can go through. You can see Kenya has formally joined International Vaccine Institute as a member of state of resolve, achieve self-reliance of vaccine production. I'm not going to touch on that. You know how I feel about this. We're not going to talk about South Africa. I just wanted to talk about Kenya today, but South African news is very, very interesting. There's Raila story, government to translate Raila CVs into 6 AU languages. Who gives what? But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends, enemies and comrades, it's 1 hour, 35 minutes. I'll stop it here. But one last thing I want to ask you guys is to go to my channel, Kenya Revolutionary, right there. Subscribe, share, like. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, go ahead and subscribe. Share, like. If you have subscribed already, like my friend Goodyear, like the video. Like. Thank you so much. I will stop here. It's been a pleasure. I've been here for 1 hour, 36 minutes. Woo, I'm hot. I have to get some sleep. I know in Kenya it's probably somewhere in the morning. I don't know what time is it in Kenya. In Great Britain it's probably like, 6 hours ahead or something like that. So thank you so much, guys, for watching. I'll stop here. Just go to my channel again. It's Kenya Revolutionary. Go type it in your YouTube. Subscribe, share, like. And I will see you guys later today. Your evening or your night, my afternoon or my whatever, depending on where you are, if you're in a tactic or whatever the case is, we shall continue. And always feel free to come in the comment section and join me in the studio where we can have these discussions. We shall deal more with the politics later when I come in. We shall talk what it means with Raila, basically conceding defeat by joining Ruto's regime. Now Ruto, Musalia Mudavadi atamtafutia kiti hapo AU. And what does it mean if Raila doesn't get that AU seat? We shall get to the siasa part of it. That is later today. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. I would like to thank you from the bottom of my heart for watching me. Please subscribe, share, like, comment, and I'll see you guys later. I'm Anamnagani. Peace and blessings.